Okay, so I did answer a similar question in my stories the other day. I had a few people asking about what an off season should look like, how long it should be. This one is a little bit more nuanced, and so I said that I would make a video. So the question is, it's a bit early, but how long of an off season do you recommend? How can I maintain fitness over the winter without getting burnt out? It was a long road back to fitness this year, and I'd like to think there's an easier way to carry more of it through but still rest. So I'm going to answer kind of the broader question in terms of just how long of an off season do I recommend, and then get a little bit more into the specifics of this person's question. So, of course, with all things, it depends. It depends on a lot, but primarily kind of how long your season was, how fatigued you are, your general stress level, your general ability to recover, how your season went, what your off season will look like in terms of, are you going to be going somewhere warm to train? Are you going to be here in Salt Lake kind of through the winter? Will you be riding the trainer? Will you mix it up with off the bike stuff? So all of these things, if I were coaching you, these are all things that I would be considering in terms of planning an off season. For most people, I think most people who kind of train hard, race hard, have a season somewhere on the order of, start training in January and finish up sometime around now. And when I say most folks, I mean truly a literal median, the highest number of people. I would say typically what I see is that 2 weeks off the bike and 2 weeks of open riding is a really good place to start. But you do have to kind of be honest with yourself about how you feel when you start training again. And because it's pretty normal to still be tired, and you may need more time than that, and that's okay. I wouldn't do less than 2 weeks off the bike. Doing less usually means you bounce back more quickly. You're going good in February, March, but I don't see you going real good May, June, July. So that's why you kind of really need to be pretty honest with yourself about how you're feeling. And 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even 4 weeks is probably pretty reasonable if you are feeling tired. So kind of a starting point. So that kind of answers the more general question on this topic. Now, you say that it took a really long time to bounce back this year after your off season last year. So to be totally honest, this doesn't sound right to me. I feel like something else is going on. I don't know exactly what you mean by a long road back. I don't know how long you took off. I don't know what your training looked like when you did get back into things. But, given that, like I said, for most people, I see 2 weeks off and 2 weeks of open riding. That works. Generally, it's like it takes about 2 weeks after that time to it feels crappy for another 2 weeks. And then you kind of get back to some normal sensations, and it's maybe on the order of 1 month, maybe 2 months to start to see the numbers rebound a little bit into a normal range. And then after that, we're kind of building on top of that. If it's taking longer than that, it really sounds to me like something else is going on. Like I said, I don't know how long you took off. My first guess is that it took a long time to build back because you were still tired and maybe you didn't take enough time off. I'm kind of just basing that assumption on the fact that I know you're a hard charging athlete. And so typically what I see is that people who train hard don't take enough rest. So that's really all I'm basing that on, but it just shouldn't take that long to bounce back. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe you were still a bit fatigued when you started back. I also don't know what your training looked like when you got back. Was it too hard? Was it too easy? I don't know. But it's not normal for it to take a long time to bounce back. It shouldn't. It just shouldn't. And yeah, for a healthy, well-trained athlete, it shouldn't be a painfully long road. Part of the reason that I bring this up too is that, again, I don't know you well, but what I do know is that you're kind of at risk for this phenomenon that I have named. It's a phenomenon that I personally observe all the time, primarily with women. I started calling it second year syndrome is typically we see it in like year kind of 2, 3, 4, even 5 of, yes, primarily women who are training hard consistently in those kind of 2, 3, 4 years. They're really progressing, and then the fatigue starts to catch up with them, and we're talking this fatigue that builds over years, and their progress kind of stalls or they go backwards a little bit. Often at that point they kind of double down and start training harder, which really exacerbates the problem. Again, I don't know you, I don't know anything about your training, but I see you being a strong, talented, and hard training athlete, and I think I know that you're somewhere in that time frame. And so I really wonder if this is just some more longer term fatigue catching up with you, and I would almost bet money that this is accumulated fatigue, yeah, like I said, over months and years, and I bet you need a little more rest, so that you can get to a point where you are fresh enough to train hard enough in order to continue making progress. I do feel it's probably a little bit unfair for me to be making these assumptions given that I don't know any of the details here, but I offer these free question answer things, because I want to provide a service to my community, and I think there's a lot of people for whom this is relevant. So I'm just going to make some unfair assumptions in the hope that it helps somebody if it doesn't help you. But if it does help you, that's obviously certainly the goal. So at any rate, I would start with possibly a bit more rest. Probably not what you want to hear.